Hello. Deanda Renee here. Welcome to the Deanda Factor. Let's get into the sweet spot. So you can see a little bit of it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, Kenya, they just embraced you, the people, the culture, the music, the food, everything to me was just a big giant hug. So from Nairobi, we move on to Kigali, Rwanda, and there, and I forgot to mention that I meet two of my friends um, who are, in our who is making up our group now, our travel group um, in Kenya. So when we move on to Kigali, um, we pick up another friend. We pick up another friend. She meets us in Kigali, and from from Kenya to Kigali, I want to also mention that I'm working East Coast hours. So I basically start work at 6 p.m. their local time and end around 1 a.m. local time. So, which is, it's not too bad. It basically gives me the whole day for the most part. It was a bit challenging trying to, make sure that I was, back and in place to start at 6 on a couple of those days. But we were in Kenya for only 5 days. We were in Kigali for 7 days. And in Kigali, we were basically in a neighborhood with the locals. So we're really living amongst the locals. And again, the culture is embracing, they are looking at us a little strangely because we look like Americans. And some people were, immediately like, oh, hey, sis, and some people were just kind of staring, especially when we were filming, walking down the street, filming and stuff, because that's not something that, they do. Um, so we had to, adjust to that. And, like I said, the food, one of the really lucky things that happened to us in Kigali is we were kind of, I would say this was like a bed and breakfast. That's the best way to describe it. Airbnb bed and breakfast is was kind of what this stay was. And next door was another bed and breakfast, but they also had a restaurant. And literally right next door, we could crawl there and not even mess up our knees. And it was phenomenal. They completely embraced us and basically like took us in, and they had only been open for a week. So we were basically like their first customers. On our last night there, they fixed a traditional Kigali meal, complete with like I can't really remember the names of the dishes, but it was a reminiscent of a Sunday dinner at home, that my mom would cook. Greens and beans and roast meat. It was just delicious, and again, just you felt embraced, you felt loved, and that's a feeling that when you're traveling, you're not thinking that you're gonna get, but it was definitely received and given in both Nairobi and Kigali, in my opinion. Um, so, yeah. So now there are four of us. We're moving now on to Bangkok. And in Bangkok, we pick up a fifth person. And Bangkok time is completely 12 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So my work in Bangkok and in Vietnam started at 9 p.m. local time, and ended, 5 a.m. local time. So it was, pretty decent or whatever. I will say that the trip from Kigali to Bangkok was a bit heavy because we were supposed to only have a 2 hour layover, but it ended up being a 7 hour layover because there was some plane mechanics that happened. And thank goodness for Priority Pass. Highly recommended. If you don't have it, make it your business, do it. Um, and I will drop the link in the description box so that you have that. In fact, I actually have a fast, slow travel cheat sheet downloadable that will also be uh, present in the link will be in the description for you. And it's just, a few of the gems that I encountered on this leg of my trip from Asia to, I'm sorry, from Africa to Asia. And like I said, Bangkok was amazing. And I will tell you too, so in the planning, when we were planning this, I was only going to do the Asian leg. I was only gonna, I was gonna meet them in Bangkok and, you know, do Bangkok, Vietnam, and Bali. That's what I was gonna do. And I was only gonna do maybe like a month, that kind of thing. And then they were like, oh, you should come, you didn't come to South Africa with us, so you should do that. So I, said, okay, I want to go to Africa, so why not start now, right? Let's not put it off. So that's, basically how I did it. Now, the other thing that I want to pause and mention is all of my travel buddies who, my travel friends, sister friends, I met through Exodus Summit. The community in Exodus Summit is nothing short of amazing. For inspiration, for accountability partnerships, for travel partners. It is, if you're a Black woman, do it. Again, I will drop it in the description box and you're able to download that as well. Um, so, moving on to once we get into Bangkok, and like I said, the trip to Bangkok was a bit heavy because we ended up having a 7 hour layover in Qatar, and it was unexpected. But with Priority Pass, I was able to go to the lounge, take a shower, take a nap in their nap room. So it wasn't so bad, right? Eat, a meal and just kind of, get geared up to get back on the plane and, do the flying or whatever. Because knowing that once I got to Bangkok, I was going to have to work. Um, you know, when we land, I had maybe like a couple of hours before I was going to have to start work. So it is juggling that. One of the things that I will do differently is, adjusting my work schedule to go a little bit more in line with, the days or whatever. One of the other thing is that I learned and I will, share with you is understanding that it's okay to pivot and kind of do go against that plan. You know, we can plan for all the things, but when you're in country and when you're actually doing it and you're in it, you have to be, maybe make some adjustments for you to get some rest. And, if you, fall sick, you have to have some downtime for, to get better or whatever, which actually happened. And I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean, when we landed in Bangkok, I went to my hotel, checked in or whatever. I'm fully exhausted from the flying. Even though I had my nap and rest and stuff on the plane, it's still different once up and down on planes and luggage, pushing and all the things. It's exhausting. So I will say lean into, the feelings of what your body is telling you. Lean into what your mental health is telling you, in terms of slowing down and just saying, hey, I'm going to have to take a rest. Um, so one of the, I will say, kind of biggest wins, or hardest struggles, and I'll, kind of give you both. So, budgeting and cost hacks that I, fully embrace is, um, becoming a member of Priority Pass for the lounges, because with international travel, you're going to have layovers. So just go ahead and get in front of that. If you're in a lounge, that makes it that much easier and better. Agoda for cheap and affordable stays. Now, I will say that, um, lodging has been tremendously affordable in the countries that we've been in, because they don't charge the way the states do. Like in the United States, have to budget for your stays, which takes up basically the bulk of your budget. Not even the flight, So I think the biggest cost that I've experienced has been, my trip out of the states. That's been the biggest, the most expensive thing. The stays have been, really in budget, and a lot of those I didn't even book until I got in country. Not a lot of them. Yes, a lot of them, because it was one that I did book before I left the states. Um, and Agoda is really good for that. I will say Agoda, Airbnb. um, I don't really like Booking, but you can find some, deals on there too, because some of my other, companions have been using Booking, but for the most part, those are the ones that I've been using. I will say, I've learned through, and I haven't even really got into, getting here to Vietnam, but, I was thinking fast travel was, my jam. That was going to be good for me. Not so much. And I realized that fast travel is not my thing. I need more downtime. So a good example of that is, while we were in Bangkok, um, three of the five of us decided to go to, um, where did they go? They went to another part of Thailand, and they had to get on a plane to do it. And I just couldn't. I couldn't muster up the energy for that. And again, because I'm working too, it's just, yeah, it was just too much. So, um, I will say fast travel is not my thing, and I wouldn't have known that until I did it, and now that I know what I know that slow travel is my jam. That's where I need at least 2 weeks just to, let me just sit still for 2 weeks and not jump on another plane. Um, and jumping in off on and off planes, every 5 days, mm-mm. And working too, no ma'am, I can't do it. So again, find your sweet spot. Those are my, kind of, I won't call it a struggle. I'll just say that, if I gotta choose, which fast travel versus slow travel, it's always gonna be slow travel for me. It's always gonna be slow travel for me. Um, and um, I'm a planner, so I'm always gonna be, do the planning stuff. But there are some things that, kind of just popped in, and had me, pivot and, do it a little differently. Again, I'm doing all of this scared. I'm doing all of this with I never done this before. And am I really, can I pinch myself? Like I'm in Vietnam. Like we were literally walking down the street and I was like, y'all, we're in Vietnam, you know? And we're not in the States dealing with all of that mayhem or whatever and stress of it, right? I realized that I have completely been able to curate the news that I ingest. I have been able to and I don't think I would be able to do that if I was in the States because just walking down the street, you're bombarded with the things that are going on, from a political standpoint, right? So I don't have to deal with that. I'm not, getting any of that. And um, I have loved, that feeling of not having to deal with the stress of politics and American politics and what that brings and does and, to your psyche or whatever. I will also tell you that while being out here for this, basically, we might as well say 2 months now, I've been still doing my therapy, having my therapy sessions and my mind and meeting with my mindfulness group. Yes. And I still, reach into my, mental toolbox. I still journal, meditating, chanting, all the things. These are things that I know that help Deanna. So we're in Vietnam now. And one of the reasons we're in Vietnam is we're also here for a Exodus meetup in Hanoi. And our group of five, and we pick up one, no, two other people. So it then becomes seven of us. So now we're seven. It started with me coming out, and then I picked up two people in Nairobi. And then in Kigali, we picked up another person that made us four. In Bangkok, we picked up one more person that made it five. And also want to note that in Bangkok, we met up with some other Exodus Summit sisters who have made Bangkok home. So we meet up with them and, dinner and spa days and all the things. So when we get to Vietnam, we pick up two other people in our travel group and we're in Da Nang. Our base is in Da Nang. I'm currently right now in Da Nang. I've been in three hotels since being here. I was only going to be here for 2 weeks, and I decided to just stay until the end of my visa, which is not until May. And that's another thing. So for Vietnam, there is a visa requirement. So you have to have a visa to come in or whatever. And and it's a process. So, don't wait to the last minute. Oh, I booked my ticket yesterday and I'm going to try to, no, they're not letting you in. If you're an American, that is. Can't speak for any other country, but Americans, no, they're not just going to let you in. So, anyway, my visa, I had a 90-day visa, and I'm here until the end of it. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm embracing the culture. So we had the meetup. It's been a week now since the meetup. So there were 80 Black women who traveled to Hanoi and Da Nang because half of us stayed over here in Da Nang. And it was phenomenal. I will put up some pictures so you can at least see. We got clothes made. Y'all, I got a leather jacket, cowboy boots, and sandals made. Yes, right? Custom made to fit me. Like I have long arms, so I mean, I was just the customer service and the culture and the language and the food. Okay, so just like right now, y'all, this restaurant, it's a pizza restaurant in Da Nang, Vietnam. I know, pizza, right? But they have everything. And it was delicious. It was delicious. I ate pretty much everything. um, the juice, the fresh. I mean, I don't feel like I'm sure there's a place in the States where you can go and get fresh watermelon juice, but I hadn't found it. I found it here. Almost every restaurant has watermelon juice, mango juice, um, blueberry juice, and fresh. Like they're, you know, on the street juicing it, right? So just those things, those are the wins. Those are the wins. Meeting new people. So the other day we were in a Mexican restaurant, yes, in Vietnam, and in walked this sister. She had, really great shoes. I'm a shoe person. If you know me, you know this. And I was like, sis, love the shoes. She came over, sat down. We had already finished our meal. We were there for another 3 hours talking. She and her husband just, well, not just, they've been in, they moved to Vietnam 8 months ago from Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown. And they watched a video, somebody had done it, and they just picked up and left. They sold everything and left, sold their cars and left. And now Vietnam is their home. They live here. And it was like, I'm listening to her, I'm talking to her, and I'm like, this, this is, this is the life. This is, and I'm not saying that I'm gonna, pick up and move to Vietnam, but I like the notion. I like the notion. So yeah, one of the you know things that I also love about Vietnam is, and particularly Da Nang, is we're in an area where we can walk to, to I'm what 2 blocks away from the beach, water, right now, right now, where I'm staying. Um, Across the bridge, the Dragon Bridge, which is where we stayed on the other side of the Dragon Bridge when we first got here. So we were across from the river. So the river is that way, and the beach is behind me that way. Again, 2 blocks that way is the beach, 2 blocks that way is the river, right? The temperature has been in the low 70s the last, what, couple of days. Maybe a sweater, Yesterday I had on long sleeves, um, but for the most part, it's very mild weather. Um, and like I said, the people, the culture, the food, just I the handmade and homemade stuff. I had a dress made, a Asian outfit, so like the top with the pants. Again, I'll put the pictures up because it's hard to describe these things. Um, Custom made for me, custom made for me. They measured me, and then the next day went and bought them. And I'm not even going to talk about. You can look up the, you know, the currency, what the dollar is to the dong. It's This is why people are picking up and moving here, right? And it's just easy, y'all. It's just easy. So, should you try this? That's the question. Should you try this? And I will say, maybe not 4 countries in 45 days. Maybe slow it down because, like I said, for me, the bopping is not my thing. Fast travel is not my thing, right? But again, I would suggest you try it out for yourself and make up your mind for you. For me, it's just not the thing to do. um, and I don't know. I mean, the so 3 tips that I'll give you is get some sleep. Get some sleep because you can't do anything if you're tired. And I learned that the hard way. And this is, I'm gonna go back to, I told you I was gonna talk about, I got sick, and I was sick. I had flu-like symptoms, chills, coughs, the whole 9 yards. And I know it was because I wasn't, I was getting up and going. And again, this was during the meetup, so I was, trying to participate in things and doing things, and I was working at night or whatever, and so I was maybe getting 4 hours, 5 hours sleep, which is not enough for me. So get some sleep. That's the one thing. The next thing is, it's okay to change your plans. It's okay to pivot. It is okay. It is okay, because this is my journey. So I get to say yes to this or no to that, right? And so I encourage you to embrace, saying no to things, and embrace, the fact that you can pivot and you can change your plans. You don't have to do everything that's on the paper, right? Um, the other thing is, if you feel like crying it out, because that was one morning I woke up and I just cried. I just cried. I wasn't sad. I wasn't mad. I think I was exhausted and I didn't know that's what it was. But I cried it out. I cried it out, and I felt so refreshed once I was, done with it. Um, but you just gotta lean into and learn how to listen to yourself, to your body, to your what you want and what you want to get out of your journey. Okay. And I think too, um, like I said, I continue with my routine of catering to my mental health. I kept my I only canceled one of my mindfulness group times because we had like just traveled, and I was like, I'm gonna do the work that I got to do, and then I'm sign it off and go to bed. So only one time, but for the most part, I've kept my mental health tools going, and that includes my therapy sessions and my mindfulness group sessions. Um, so keep the things that feed you and keep you healthy, both mentally and physically. If working out is your thing and that keeps you physically fit and healthy and helps with your mental health, don't put that off because you are in another country. Find a way to include and put that into your dailyness. Because one of the things is, I was supposed to be gone, y'all. I was supposed to be in Bali, because so my Asian leg included going to Bali, and I'm also going to KL for a health checkup. So those things, well, Bali was always on there, but KL was not on my list. And I'm only going in for that, and I'm coming right back out because I had no real desire to go to Malaysia. Um, and I want to get to Bali. So I'm in Vietnam longer than I had planned to be, and I allowed myself to, it's okay, I can do that. And uh, the thing is, I manifested this. The real reasons I wouldn't trade this experience for anything is, I asked for this. I manifested this journey. And so here I am, and I've been able to fully embrace this thing that I manifested, fully embrace it, fully live in it, fully, say, okay, I'm going to stay in Vietnam longer than I had planned. And it's okay because I can do it, right? The other thing is, I've allowed myself the grace I needed to get lost, get found, and basically find my sweet spot, you know? Um, yeah, I mean, I've walked down the streets and I'm like, literally, this happened the other day. I was walking down the street and I was like, I have no idea where I am. I have no idea where I am. But I was okay with it. I was fine with being lost. And once I found my way, I think I found a new little shop or whatever, and I'm like, good times. It was all good times, and I was in my back in my sweet spot, right? So yeah, I encourage you to do the same. You know, it doesn't have to be 45 days, um, but I've gone to restaurants alone. I'm here alone. Um, I've gone shopping, alone or whatever. I've been on a bike, yes, on the back of a scooter alone. Yes, I did that. I went all the way from Da Nang to Hanoi on a bike, and it was sprinkling raining during that. I needed to get there fast, and as fast as cheap, and that's how the locals. I mean, I feel like I'm a local now. I've been here for almost a month. Gonna be going into a second month. Yes, yeah, So yeah, I say embrace the unknown, explore, allow yourself to get lost in it. If you don't want to do a full 45 days in 4 countries like I did, do two, do one, but do it, y'all. I'm doing all of this scared. I'm doing all of this scared, but I am so glad I'm doing it. I am so glad I'm doing it. So I'm going to ask you to drop a globe emoji in the comments if you're ready to go, if you're gonna do it, right? If you're doing it, or if you're gonna do it, drop that globe emoji in there, down there, and let's do it together, sis. Let's do this. Let's live with more ease, live with more freedom, and yeah. So please, join me for the next adventure, because I'm going to continue to share my travel journey. And um, yeah, again, I want to ask you to like and subscribe, and catch up with me for more travel content and updates on my next adventure. Thanks so much. See you next time.